We are back, and let me tell you, Carolina, interesting week of hockey. A couple wins, a tough loss, and the record's kind of right around that 500 mark. We are going to touch on a couple things today. We're going to touch on some of the players that are playing, I think, extremely well right now. Take a look at the goaltending, and then kind of talk about last night's woes through the neutral zone. But I do want to start with something that I think has turned positive over these last three games, and that's the power play. Quarterback by Shane Gostisbehere, I think he's made a massive improvement to this power play already, not including just the 3 goals he already has through the 4 games we've played so far, the 5 games, I can't even remember. I think it's 4. But not only just through that, but facilitating everything else on that power play. I mean, outside of last year, I don't think our power plays look this good to start a season in a long time. But I'll pass it over to you, Dad. What are you seeing on that power play so far?
It's funny because I was sitting there watching the game against Pittsburgh, and we hadn't really done much in the way of puck movement. Looks like a little bit. It was a little disjointed, and I don't know if they changed something in the rotation or the setup or how they approached the power play. But man, I tell you, the power plays against that were Goss's Bear on that quarterback. If if anybody listening doesn't understand how to quarterback a power play, watch Shane Gostisbehere. He knows what to do. They move the puck so quickly. And that was the thing. I was watching the game. I said, man, they're not moving. They're not moving their feet, but man, they're moving the puck like lightning quick. And I think that's been the biggest thing for me is creating those quick, not holding on to the puck, making good plays and really on and off your stick quickly, but with targeted and accuracy. And I think that's been the biggest thing for me. And Gosh Despair has an amazing shot from the point, and he doesn't need a big clapper. He doesn't need a big slap shot. It's just a quick wrister with traffic, and you see what happens. Of course, he did have the one timer, that hit the back bar, and I don't think anybody thought it was in. But but anyways, I think that's been the biggest thing for me is how quickly they're moving the puck now, and I think it's a lot to do with him.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really just especially, I mean, this is, and when we're talking about this is all power play unit 1. Unit 2 hasn't really done a whole lot. Don't know if Rod will keep it the same. I mean, going to be honest, it's not a great unit, but either way, unit 1's been really good, for sure. And every goal's been because there's been traffic in front of the net. There's been some kind of movement in front of the net. It's taking away the goalie's eyes, causing him to think twice about something. So, and then, yeah, just having Gostisbehere back there where he can fire the puck. I mean, that's huge. That's where he can fire the puck efficiently.
Mm-hmm.
Let me asterisk that, because we got Burns who can fire the
Outer
puck, but he'll
space.
fire it into somebody's shins or a wide or, you know, outer space. It really doesn't. I mean, it anyway. We'll move on from that. But yeah, having somebody that can fire the puck accurately on net and
Mm-hmm.
placement and be in the right place at the right time, he's definitely that guy. So yeah, it's been a good start. You hope it continues, but yeah, I mean, we'll see if Shane. I mean, he already has 3 goals. I think he had 10 goals all last year, and he was running the Detroit power play the whole year. So
Mm-hmm.
we'll see. Hopefully he'll kind of keep it going, because we
First
definitely
ever
need it
50
for
goal
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
defenseman.
he's definitely playing
I
with
don't know if
confidence.
that'd be
That's
the
for
first
sure.
ever. Did
Yeah.
Coffee ever do that, Dad?
No, well,
50 for an E-man's crazy.
I don't know
I
if he
don't
did or
know.
not. I don't know if he
Oh,
did.
that
I
is
don't.
insane.
Maybe just
I
slightly.
don't know
That
if
would
he
win the
did.
Norris for sure. Not even close.
Might just do it. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
But
maybe the
the other
heart.
thing I want to make note of is the good adjustment by whoever the power play coach is. I'm assuming it's Jeff Daniels still. I mean, he hasn't left, so I'm presuming he's still running the power play. But good adjustment to put Jarvis into that bumper spot. I think that's where he fits best, and I think putting Aho back out
Mm-hmm.
to the wing allows him to facilitate a lot more from out there. And he, while not having the best start to his season, he's playing well. I don't want you to think that he's not playing well. He's just not had the offense to follow through with the kind of production that he's put up so far. But off or
Mm-hmm.
on the power play, he's doing a really good job at just when it needs to get slowed down, he's slowing it down. When it needs to pick up the pace, he's the one that kind of starts that pace pickup where him and Gossespierre will go back and forth one or two times really quickly, and everybody else kind of picks up on the cue, like, oh, we're moving it now. And Marty Natchez, while not,
Mm-hmm.
always being the most productive on the power play, I think he's looked really good. I think he's tried to force one or two passes that I was like, maybe not. But overall, I think that he's done only positive, really contributions to that power play unit. And then putting Svech net front, while I don't want to see him taking pucks off the knee, that big body and frame of his, it's hard to move him around there. And I think once he gets a little bit more comfortable
Yeah.
with it,
Yeah.
it's going to take a little bit of time. But once he
Yeah.
gets comfortable with it, he's going to be like a Chris Kreider. I really think that he's going to be able to shovel pucks in.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be that net front guy where it's just like, once we can get him comfortable being in that situation, like, hey, you're not going to get hurt every single time you come to this area, especially when you get stronger and more physical. Cause I think he's still got a little bit more strength and physicality to get out of him. I don't think he's fully developed yet in that regard. And I think if we can get him into that mindset, he'll put up 50 a year, just a lot like Kreider did. But
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the other two, just before we leave that topic, Kyle, I think moving Jarvis to the bumper spot, I think it does for two reasons. Because Aho's stronger, he's bigger, he's more physical on the wall, so he can. Not that Jarvis not strong. I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm saying is that he's better suited for that bumper shot because he's quicker, he's shiftier, and to get it in and out of tight spaces. But I think Aho too is much more physical and has a bigger presence where he can protect the puck a little better on the wall than I think Jarvie can. So I think that's another big
yeah,
reason, and I really do
100%.
like
I
the
was gonna
shift,
say
and it
that was
shows.
gonna be my exact word to describe Jarvis, was gonna be he's shiftier. So good wording there. But we're gonna move over to the players
Mm-hmm.
that I think have been playing very well. I want to get us kicked off with a guy that we all said should make the roster out of camp. He made the roster out of camp, and he's delivering early. 2 goals through the young season so far. I think an assist as well too. I could be wrong in that regard. I think I am wrong. I think he only has the 2 goals. Yeah, but Jackson Blake off to a
Yeah, I think you are.
very good
Just
start.
has
And
2
Rod
goals.
even said in his press conference, he's trying to find more ice time for the kid. And we saw it in the St. Louis game. He gets bumped up to that second line
Mm-hmm.
in the third period to try and generate some more offense. And I mean, it works in the kind of opposite regard because Jack Roslovic goes down to that fourth line and immediately scores a goal. So the flip flop does work in a sense,
Yeah.
but it's positive to see Rod wanting to give a kid more chances, especially based off of how we've seen him
Sure.
develop players so far. I mean, Svech's rookie year, he was playing on the fourth line pretty much the entire year. Jarvis, you played on the fourth line for probably a good quarter of the season and then finally got bumped up, and that's when he really started to make his money. But I think if the kid's going, let him go early because you don't know how long the hot streak's going to last for him, and you kind of want to let it ride when you have it. So pass it over to you guys to to tell me what you guys think of Jackson. I can't talk this morning. My God, that was brutal.
No, no, I mean, we're all pretty high on the kid. I really do like him, and I think he's getting his props, and he's moving up the lineup, and I just think that he's a much. I don't know if he has the speed of a Roslovic, but I think he has a better IQ than a Roslovic. I think he understands the game a little bit better, and he can see the ice a little bit better. I mean, he makes some plays off the wall that, I mean, it's a get the puck, take a hit, and on the tape and your transition the other way. I mean, you don't see that out of a rookie, very, very often. So he's willing to make the plays, and I think by putting him on a line with guys that are skilled and guys, I mean, Kokniemi's, I'm going to get to him because I think he's had a pretty decent start to the season. But I think Blake is getting what he deserves, and we all knew he deserved to be on this roster. But we'll see how it continues, whether Rod stays with that lineup or not heading into Edmonton, to be determined. But I think to your point on Roslovic, yeah, he scores, but again, the line matchup I think is more conducive to him at the moment. I don't think he's fit. He's like fitting in quite well enough yet, and I think giving him some time to fit in with the flow and and get some success and some confidence, because he's just, I mean, he scored 2 goals, so he's right up there, but at the same time, I still think he struggled a little bit at times with that second line pairing. But I hope Blake stays there, because I think he's earned it.
So I like that he's moving him up the lineup. However, I liked the line that Blake was on. So I liked him with
Drury and
Kokaniemi and
Robinson.
Robinson because look, Robinson, Kokaniemi. Oh, sorry, Drury and Robinson.
Mhm.
Sorry about that. So they're both looking pass first. They're not looking to shoot. They're not looking to do this. If you move them on a line with Kokaniemi and Natchez, I mean, Natchez is looking to shoot. Like he's not really looking to pass realistically
Mhm.
unless you're
Mhm.
wide open. So he's going to take the shot when he wants to. But whereas Robinson and Drury, I mean, like you saw with Blake's first goal, I mean, Robinson, won a board battle, and that's kind of how it transitioned into Blake scoring his first goal. So it's I like it, or I'm sorry, his second goal. But I do like it for sure that he's moving up the lineup and getting more time. It's obviously we're only 4 games into the season, so it's kind of tough to tell at this point how he's going to develop, and if this is going to be his only 2 goals or his first of who knows how many. So
Yeah.
we'll kind of see at that point. But yeah, no, I think he's doing well.
The one thing
He
that I
definitely
will say
deserves
on
some
his
more ice
game
time
that
for sure.
I have kind of, it needs to be adjusted, but he's a young kid, so it's got plenty of time to, is I think there's too many times where he throws a puck, expecting it to go. He just kind of throws the puck to the center, and it's almost more of a hope play than an actual hockey play. So I hope that portion of it does get taken care of,
Mhm.
and we are able to fix them.
Yeah. You don't see that too often, though. I haven't seen, maybe I'm missing, I haven't seen a whole lot of that. I'm not saying it's not there, but, I think he's made more. I mean, everybody's remembered on their
I'm
last
not saying he
bats line, quite
hasn't. I'm
honestly,
just
but
saying
I
there's
he's
still
made
some of
more
that
good
rookie
plays.
mentality
I
leaking
think right
in
now,
where there's a play that would
yeah,
work in college that doesn't work
yeah,
here.
no, I
It's kind of that kind
yeah,
of
I get
MO.
it.
Um, but
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
not to
no,
take
fair enough.
anything away from the fact that the kid's
Yeah,
played
fair enough.
extremely well. Like he's played well. He's earned his flowers, and he's
Mhm,
doing what he needs to do in order to move up that lineup. I just think that there's still a couple rookie mistakes. Granted, there's rookie mistakes that I feel like Natchez
mhm,
makes. There's rookie mistakes that I feel like Kokaniem. I mean, there's a bunch of guys that still make these mistakes. But if he can clean that portion of his game up, all of a sudden he goes from a
mhm,
good player to a great player, where he's not, he goes from a, Kokaniemi to an
mhm,
Aho level player with those changes. Um, but another player I
mhm.
wanted
Yep,
to make note
yep.
of, and then I'll pass it over to you guys. And I maybe I'm in the minority here, but I actually think Jack Rostovic's playing halfway decent. I think, the biggest adjustment, it's harder for, in my opinion, harder for an older player to come in and learn a new system than it is for a young player to come in. Cam, do you have like a fan on in the background or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
Rebecca's opening the garage. She's leaving for work.
I
Oh,
was like, all of a sudden, it sounded
Sorry.
like a vacuum was going off. But I can take this out. I don't care. But to go back to my point, I think he's playing well, but it's a harder adjustment for an older player to make than a younger player to come in and kind of just learn a new system. I really like the fact that he's not and I know I might be, like I said, might be in the minority. He's not just an out and out system player where he's just going to dump the puck in every single time and go chase. He tries to make plays, and we need more of that, especially because we're
mhm,
losing a little bit offensively, I thought, from last year. Losing Turbo and even losing Gensel towards the latter half of the year. We lost a lot of our offense. I like the fact that he's not afraid to try and make a toe drag or try and make an extra move, because we need a little bit more of that. And his shot is ridiculous. I didn't realize how good his shot was. I mean, that goal against Pittsburgh,
mhm.
that was
Yeah.
unbelievable. He just comes over the blue line and just absolutely
Oh,
corks
yeah.
one. It goes top corner. Granted, hit the goalie in the shoulder, but like, my goodness, he absolutely let that thing fly.
I know.
And then even his goal last night. I mean, just a
Yeah.
rocket 5-hole beats Hofer, which we'll get to his game. But my goodness, that goalie's Hofer's good. He played really well for St. Louis, but
Yeah. Yeah, not to jump off Roslovic too soon, Kyle, but I don't disagree with you, and I
I
think
don't
maybe
disagree
that's
with
why
that.
moving him to the fourth line is a better suit for him. Yeah, because I think it gives him the opportunity because you have a guy like Roslovic with that much speed, and not that we didn't have a lot of speed on that fourth line, but that adds another dimension to that fourth line. And Rod even said it, that when all four lines are going, he can feel real comfortable about giving a fourth line, 8, 10, 12, 11 minutes. So not that they will every game, but I think it adds a dimension to make us sort of a four-headed monster versus only a three-headed monster. Now, I don't want to say that take away from the way the line was before with Blake on it, but I think moving Blake and Roslovic, I think it gives us a better punch.
Yeah.
Up
The
top to
other
bottom in
thing
the
I want
lineup,
to
in my
Eric
opinion.
Robinson. It's Eric, right? I know I've said Nick about 48 times so far, but Eric Robinson,
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
love his game. I love it. He's big, he's
Me
heavy,
too.
he's physical.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think he's big. Yeah, he's a big guy. He's physical. He's like a bigger version of like Steph Nason.
Don't think he's got the
Maybe
offensive
I don't know if
touch
he's
that
got more
Nason
skill,
had,
but I think
but
he's heavy like
mhm.
He does not. No.
no, but he's got the heaviness of a Steph
Yeah.
Nason. So I mean both Blake's goals he's created transition and because the first goal he created the turnover back to Orlov and tip in and it's a goal. So I really do, Kyle. I 1,000,000% agree with you. I didn't know him until this season, and nearly never seen him play before. But I really,
Carolina just producing
he's a
fourth
welcome
line
addition
talents
to
left, right, and
this lineup.
center. Just grabbing AHL guys and producing fourth liners. I love it.
That's right.
But I mean, if you are a heavy
Yep.
fourth line guy, Carolina is a great spot for you to be because I mean, look what we did with Steph. We brought him from an AHL contract to the NHL. To all of a sudden he signs a
Mhm.
$3 million a year contract with New Jersey. I mean, making money now. It's like we can produce that
Right,
level of talent here just
right.
based off of how our system rolls. Which, not to say that I mean,
Mhm.
Steph's already having a hot start with New Jersey,
Mhm.
so it's worked out so far. But sometimes it might just be that the player can play inside a Carolina system because Carolina system's definitely unique in comparison to the rest of the NHL. But I'll pass it over to you guys or you,
Mhm.
Cam. Who's been your biggest surprise so far this year?
For me, man, that's tough. I mean, it's probably one of the two new defensemen. I mean, Gostisbehere has been quite a surprise, like a very refreshing to see, somebody offensively minded like that can actually produce and be an impact player and not just somebody, hucking the puck at the net for no reason. Like he shoots with a purpose every time he shoots. Like he shoots to a position, to a point. I don't really see him miss the net that much. I mean, he might have missed the net a few times, but generally he hits the net unless it hits off of somebody. But yeah, I mean, he's been good, and Walker's been really good
Yeah.
too. Like he's been stellar. So I think in a world in where people were like, oh no, we lost Pesci and Shea. It's the end of the world is coming. I mean, I even said this in our preseason. Like I thought it was a 1-for-1 swap. I thought we upgraded a little bit offensively, but the question mark I had was defensively. If we were going to be the same, I don't think they've missed too much of a step
No,
with
I
either one
agree.
of those guys. So, Tulski definitely worked his magic getting those two guys, which is great,
Mhm.
for sure. So, I think for me, it's really just those two guys have been great and
Yeah,
great as a
and
pairing as
I just
well.
want to
Mhm.
feed off
They've
that one
been
second. I was
really, really
hard on
good.
them at the
So,
beginning of the year,
Yeah.
saying that I didn't think that pairing was going to work. I am dead wrong. I didn't realize how good Walker was defensively. I think that's the bigger thing. He
Yeah.
he's so
and
fast. Yeah, he's
I
fast.
think
He's good.
Tulski did
He's
some magic here
positionally
because
sound is
I
really,
think
really where
that's
he's
where
good.
him and Waddell differed. Is I think Waddell wanted to become a more physical, heavy hitting decor where he was trying to bring in guys that could be physical and play a bigger role. And I think Tulski wanted to move to a faster, more puck moving decor. I think that's maybe where the two of them differed slightly, because we see the change immediately. And for Rod's man on man system, I don't disagree with Tulski's kind of idea of it, of having the faster, better skating defenseman who can then you really stick with a guy, because I feel like that's where we struggled a little bit last year was Pesce would lose his man or Shea would lose his man, or I mean, even we still get symptoms from Burns, but you look at Orlov and Chatfield, those two guys rarely ever really lost their guy in the man-on-man coverage last year. And now we just add, I think, two more of those guys where they're really fast, really good, just skating-wise. They can be agile. They can get over to guys quicker, and they can close the space out, because that's what Rod's system entails, is you have to be able to close space quickly. So I think the idea of bringing in really good skating defensemen just adds an element to his system that I think we've been missing the past couple of years.
Yeah, no, I agree. And Walker was going to be one of my guys that I think has been a real pleasant surprise. I think the other, I mean, I think you've hit on everything I was going to comment. So I'll jump to my other guy that I'm really excited to see how much further he progresses with that line, because they've been a little bit snake bit at the moment. But I think William Carrier is, for me, I didn't know a lot about him. I've watched him play a handful of times, but to see the way he plays and what he generates for that line has been our most consistent line over the
The
first 4
offensive
games.
production
However,
hasn't been the same. Yeah.
they've not been rewarded on the score sheet very often. Right. So I think once that starts to click, I think that's where they miss a little bit of a Jesper Foss. But I think once Carrier figures that part out and they become a little bit more offensive, that line is going to be one of the best third lines in the NHL once they can figure that piece out, because defensively they're about as responsible as you can get. So we'll see what happens, but I think Carrier has been mine on the offensive side. I think Kokniemi's had a good start. I think he needs to still elevate a little bit, which I think he can and will. I like, he had a good start last year too. So I'm gonna say cautiously optimistic that he's going to continue to progress and learn from last year, and not, kind of not fade away as the season progresses, as the grind continues. But I think he's another one on the offensive side that had a good start, but got plenty of room to elevate.
I think KK, his big thing is just consistency. I think if he can keep playing the way that he's playing for 82 games this year, he'll have 70 points, 65, 70 points. I think he'll be in that regard. I think he's added an element to his game where a little bit last year of his physicality. I think he's brought a bigger element of that this year. He's very defensively responsible. A couple times he does, I think, I get lost a little bit in the D zone, where I've seen him start to wander and lose his man. But he then goes back and is able to pick that guy up rather quickly, which I think is a big positive thing to see out of him. He's not kind of, in years past when he lost his guy, he would just stay stationary until he could pick somebody up. Now he's just making the assumption. He's like, okay, that guy does not cover it. I got to get out to him. I got to go. So it's progress. You can't expect him to be perfect overnight. We always hope that, but it's good progression to see him starting to make those adjustments where he was struggling in years past. And that's why he never got those second line minute roles, was because in Rod's system, you got to be defensively responsible before you can be offensively responsible. So seeing that out of KK is a very big positive thing. Another big positive thing is we got a great interview with the gentleman that started and founded CutShield, which is a great brand for hockey players. It's cut resistant apparel and everything like that. And at the end of the interview, we got a little special offer for you guys as well, too. So stick around for that. But we're going to pass it over to David Nerman for his interview with us. We got to sit down with him for about 30 minutes to talk over hockey and new equipment these days. So we're going to pass it over to him right now.
Welcome back, everybody. Canes Local, really special segment for us tonight. We're always looking to learn more about the industry, the game of hockey, and a big component for us here is player safety. And we're really excited to have a guy in here that just sort of met by chance, and he's really willing to come on and talk about player safety, his journey, which you'll see is a very unconventional one, but I think from the standpoint of what he really is doing now for the game of hockey is super important. So without further ado, let's bring in, David Nerman from CutShield Hockey. Welcome, David. Welcome to the program.
Well, thank you. And thank you for having me. I truly appreciate it. Anytime I can get it out there, I'm very happy. So thank you for having me.
Yeah. So let's dive right in. And Cam, just jump in if you have a off
Yeah, for
question.
sure.
This is going to be real ad hoc and free flowing if we can do it, but kind of walk us through the journey. Cause you can read on the website, okay, you played hockey in Montreal and I know the area very well. And then you found yourself on your way to Southern California to play in a league, and then you did some acting along the way, and then all of a sudden you developed and founded a company that has innovative player safety equipment. So, just give us the I guess as quick as you can a synopsis of how did you go that route?
As quick as I can. Okay. Well, it's an interesting story because I've been playing hockey since I was 3 years old. I mean, I'm Canadian, right? We grow up, either you ski. I started playing when I was 3, that's skating. And then I played right up till I'm 65. I played up till 50 something. I've had over 9 concussions, unfortunately. So it's really affected my life. So I can't play anymore. But what happened was, I was an actor for over 30 years. And I actually got to live one of my fantasies, which is I played a professional hockey player, and we won the Stanley Cup in the series. So I actually have a photograph when I was 26 years old of the Stanley Cup, which I'm very proud to have, because there's some players that play professionally that never get to kiss it or touch it, and I have a big. And then what happened was, so I was my ex-wife at 37. Had cancer. And so at 39, she passed away, unfortunately, and we had a 9-year-old son. And I walked away from my career. My number one priority was my boy. And that was something that Guylaine knew. And so as a stay-at-home dad, I was doing a series in New York, but I'd fly in, but that was it. I mean, my priority was him. And then I was playing hockey 5 times a week in different leagues. And then I happened to see Markov get cut by Carey Price, his own, the goalie cut the defenseman accident. And I kind of went, why isn't there a cut resistant skate sock? It was like my eureka moment. And I started researching. I love research. I just absolutely love, be it, any subject. And I knew nothing about cut resistant fibers. And I kept seeing Kevlar, but I also kept reading the negatives about Kevlar. And we're going back 14 years. And so there wasn't very many innovative products, but I found a company that was doing something that was out of the ordinary. And I said, look, this is my idea. Are you able to do it? And they made me this, and they weren't hockey guys. That was the funny thing. And they made me this sock. And in 10 days, I was in the NHL because I got in with the Canadians. They bought all my samples because of what happened to Markov. That was the beginning. But it's been, listen, when you first come out with an idea that no one has, it's not easy. It might, there were so many people that are going, why are you even doing this? Who needs this? And I was a barefoot skater. So everyone's, okay, seriously, cut resistant skate socks and you're barefoot? I said, well, but there was something in my gut that said it's important. And I kept plugging away. So I would honestly say for the first 10, 11 years, it was education. And then finally, we all know what happened with Adam, unfortunately, tragically, and it kind of exploded in a good way. And I hope that his legacy is one of saving others, be it neck guards, wrist guards, skate socks, that kind of stuff. So it's been an interesting, path. but one that I absolutely, I think, just before we got on, you talked about timing, and that's what I feel this is. It was for me. It was timing, and I couldn't let it go. With everyone saying, "Don't," why are you doing? There was something, I just had to do it, and I'm glad I did. Very.
Yeah, yeah, no, and I think as parents, we're glad you did too, because I think it's so important to be educated and to keep building the awareness and making kids understand it at a younger age, that it's not a taboo to wear a protective neck guard, as you play up the level, because then it becomes more of the kids in the room, it's not as negatively viewed as it was previously. Because I know when I was growing up, I mean, you didn't wear you didn't wear a neck guard because they wouldn't let you in the locker room, basically. So, but I think this is a really, really, super important thing for young players to understand, and parents to be thankful that you're doing what you're doing, because it's very much needed, and people don't understand how dangerous the game of hockey is
Yeah.
at many levels. I mean, you talk about your concussions, you talk about, the skate blade. I mean, people don't understand how sharp a skate blade is.
They don't, and they don't understand that over the years. And it's really funny, because this is the thing that I feel like I'm always chasing, because, or the boys that make the steel are always trying to improve it. Like, it's like new and improved tide. Well, what was wrong with the other tide? And so I always joke with them, because I see them when they go into the dressing room sometimes, and I go, okay, you're making my life friggin' hard, because there comes a point that I'm trying to stay up with them, and they're just trying to make it harder and sharper. And now with the clip out blades, you got fresh steel. But what people don't realize, and honest to God, when I met the Pittsburgh Penguins, they brought out Sid's skate, the sharpest skate I ever felt. But you can take a sharpened skate and run it over your face, you won't get cut. People don't understand where the damage is normally done is the nicks and burrs, the microscopic nicks and burrs on a blade, because what happens is it grabs fibers and it pulls and cuts. Now, I'm not saying that a sharpened blade is not going to cut you, because of angles, and it's the weight of the player, and that like there's so much testing that we can do, but in a game, there's too many situations, and what we're trying to do is just reduce the risk of a serious injury. And in 14 years, I've lost one player to a shift, because our socks are designed. So this is my sock. I say play gray because they're gray, but how the fiber's designed that when it does get compromised, it doesn't rip like cotton. It just kind of goes ping. And what happened to this player, it did exactly that. But then the player stepped on him and caused a pressure cut, which I can't prevent from a 200-pound guy. And so he took a stitch. But in 14 years, I've never lost anyone, which is just, I mean, knock on friggin' wood.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I was watching, and Kim got me onto it with the new NHL series. I was noticing there, and I was sitting there watching with my wife, and I was like, and they show a picture of Nylander laying in the locker room, and they scan right in. I mean, it could as plain as day.
Yep.
It was CutShield hockey, and I was like, it's like, that's the guy we're talking to on Mondays, or one Monday. So, so it's pretty impressive to see that it's really taken over in the NHL as well.
I think one of the things that people don't realize is there's probably about 60 companies that are doing this now, and especially after what happened with Adam, you have people came out of the woodwork. We have this, we have that. I mean, and I guess because I established myself early on, and working with the equipment managers, including the Hurricanes, has been incredible, because they know that I am passionate about protecting their players. I'll do whatever it takes to protect their players. Like, for instance, Toronto, I do 3.5-inch wrist guard, 3.5 double wrist guard, 5-inch wrist guard, 7. I do what anyone wants, because I'm a small company. I'm not a Bauer, I'm not CCM. I answer to myself. So I go, I'm going to do it. And that's, That's one of the benefits of being a small company, but that's also my passion, because I don't want them going out and purchasing something else, because there's, one of the biggest issues, and people don't realize this, is the washability of a product.
For
That
sure.
is because there's issues with the yellow fiber. I mean, Bauer, and I'm going to tell this story because it actually bothers me that Bauer is such a huge company and they know this. So in the store, they had their Bauer sock, sitting on a foot, and half of it was out to light and the other was not. This part that was out exposed to light went from yellow to puke orange because it was degrading with UV lighting.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone that's laying out their Kevlar in the sun to dry their equipment, moisture, it's doing something to Kevlar. So Bauer made it black Kevlar so that people didn't realize it was degrading. Now it's still degrading, but it's black. You won't see that awful color turn.
Yeah.
So I think that one of the things is that the washability is huge, because if you do not follow the instructions, if something happens, they're not liable. They'll take it and they'll go, oh, but you dried it. Oh, but you didn't line dry. I mean, so one of the huge benefits, and that I'm very, very proud about, is that my sock was used 180 times, washed 180 times, and dried 180 times in home units, and it didn't lose its cut level. I did it in the NHL because they were industrial units, because they were concerned that socks were cooking and guys were getting clipped through the sock, which was happening. I'm not going to say that's the reason, but I thought it might be. That's just what I think. And so I did it in NHL industrial units, which was 100 washes, 100 dries at 176 Celsius, which is, I'm in Canada, we do Celsius.
You're good. You're good.
It's very hot. Yeah.
Ridiculous. Yeah, it's like ridiculous. And it went from a 6 to a 5, which is not a failure to me, because that's 100 washes.
Mm-hmm.
Duty takes its toll, and it just dropped 1. So anything else, other materials, I can't speak for them, but I don't think they would have done as well.
Mm-hmm.
But that is the number. I tell people, ask questions. If a company cannot tell you what the cut level is, if they will not show you what the cut level is, if they won't tell you what the washing test is, stay away.
Right.
Stay away. So.
Right.
For sure.
Is there, I mean, there's obviously instructions that come along with your product on how to manage it and maintain it. And, I've been around hockey gear my entire life, and some of that stuff is the most god awful smelling stuff you can come across on the face of this earth. So, you talk about washability. Does it breathe like some of the current undergarment technology does, where it doesn't, I mean, it's like odor wicking or odor resistant or things like that? Because for me, that was a big thing for me.
We have antimicrobial in here. I don't talk usually, just because it's there and I kind of forget sometimes. But one of the things is when you put your hand, or I'm putting my hand, but you don't put my sock on your hand, on your feet, you'll feel this coolness, because what it is, it's the fibers reacting off your moisture, off your temperature. Mm-hmm. So this gear does not it doesn't get hot. And I think one of the biggest things for me, of course, being in the NHL, is if they didn't like it, they would not wear it.
For sure.
So when I get a 9-year-old kid that goes, the wrist guards are hot and I showed them like Austin Matthews, who scored 70 goals last year, wearing our wrist guards. I go, yeah, they're hot and you'll get sweaty. Yeah, this guy doesn't know what he's doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But very breathable because of the materials.
Right.
I think that's, and that's what makes us different than everyone else. And also, you have to work with a team that just is. I work with guys, engineers, and that just know what they're doing. They do military applications, but we're always looking for the better. Like, I don't sit back on I came up with a sock. The first sock I came out with was white. And, they'd hold it on national TV going, this Kevlar sock. And I used to just go, oh man, you're just killing me. But white, it was a cut level 3. Then I went to a 4, and now I'm at a 6, and we're developing to go even higher. Because I don't want to stop. You know, it's like
I don't blame you.
it kills me. It just, I mean, I'm scared. Like my wrist guards are A9, which is the highest level possible. They're actually over an A9. I can't say that because there's no scale, but they're double layered, and it's just my paranoia because I've saved guys in single layers. That I've done, but it's just me and knowing the artery and the short gloves, which drive me nuts. I mean, when I played, we had the long gloves.
Oh yeah, big cuff.
Okay, Lemieux did okay in them, but it's the short gloves, and kids are getting clipped. Their teammates jumping over the boards.
Yeah,
they're getting clipped. I mean, it's stupid.
Yeah,
for sure. No, I just had a quick question too about, you talk about, obviously the steel is getting sharper and sharper, and they're using kind of different materials. It feels like even, not switching from steel. I think they're going to, there's some other kind of material that they're using, some kind of hybrid technology that they're using with the kind of material that they're making. It's crazy what they're doing now with the steel. So where do you guys see yourself kind of going in that? And, obviously you have to kind of manage to kind of adapt to that a little bit, just because that stuff is getting so much sharper.
And people have to understand there's only so much we could do. Like,
for sure.
Nothing is going to be, if someone ever says cut proof, it has to be like chainmail, what they used to be medieval. And someone tried that, and no one in the NHL liked it. It was, you go shark hunting with it or so what I'm trying to work on now is a level A9 sock, which would absolutely change everything. And it takes, so I have my guys working on it, but it's the recipe. It's finding that level of comfort and protection. Because one of the issues that people had with Kevlar at the beginning, and I think it's gotten better, but I still hear that it happens, is itchy, and that it gets stiff and it cooks.
Yes, so very much.
The things is, and I knew this when I first came up with the sock, was that it had to be comfortable. Because who cares what cut level it is if it isn't comfortable? And what people don't realize is the first thing I developed was the foot. Because I knew as hockey players that if the foot wasn't right, then they couldn't care less about the rest of it, because they were wearing, baseball thinnies. And I mean, I even heard of a professional going to Costco and getting dress socks. So they wanted thin, and that was the challenge. But you go thinner, you're compromising cut level. So there's that balance. So with what you asked about the steel, we're trying to come up with the best of the best. Do I think we'll ever prevent? I don't think so. And I say that not, like I hope no one ever gets hurt, but just because of what we were talking about before, the steel that they're coming out with, these hybrids, which I didn't even know about. I mean, you have your home sharpening system now.
For sure. Yeah.
So that's a whole different ball game, right? So we're just trying to at least reduce the risk so that if something happens, it's not going to absolutely slice through your Achilles, your wrist. But I'm going to try to get to a point where we could say, yeah, absolutely. But it's that balance as your steel, and always trying to stay ahead. But it's tough because these guys, I mean, I don't get it, because I think there comes a point where it's good enough. Well, and I'm not saying because it's never good enough for my product, so maybe it's not good enough for their steel, but I just don't know why get sharper and sharper and this and that, it's tough,
Yeah. So do you have, like, I was just curious more than anything, because I'm a very process oriented guy just by general. I mean, do you have an internal team that does your development work for you, or is that something that you have, farmed out to a group and they do the technology development for you, or is it all you? So you're the team. Okay. That's fair enough.
I am, and it's funny because one of the good things about a concussion, if there are good things, because I got hit with stuff. Like I donate my brain to Boston University so they could see for CTE. I go every year for testing because if I'm able to help people, I will. Because we just, listen, I played in the 70s, 80s. We didn't realize what was happening. But I get compulsive, which I never had that before the last, concussion. And so I'm like a dog with a bone, and I gotta, I work and work and work and work, on something and just can't shake it, which is a good thing for the business. It sucks in life sometimes, but yeah. So I'm the guy that I have the idea, and then I'll tell my engineer this is what I want, and then he'll try and see if it's possible. And I drive them crazy, absolutely. Because I'm an idea person throwing stuff out here, and they're like, it takes time, it takes money to develop. Like the A9 isn't going to be just like that. We spend money to develop it, and I'll probably have it out in a year, I hope, when I'm with the NHL equipment managers. But yeah, I'm the guy that basically designs.
Okay.
Ideas. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. But I will always, it's like, it's if Paul, if you came to me and said, hey, Dave, I need, I want to protect my femoral artery, and I'll come up with a thigh protection for you. I'll figure it out. And I've done it. I mean, I had a young player, the father called me for the femoral artery, and I said to him, actually, it wasn't the femoral artery. It was our pants, between the pants and the shin guard.
Yep.
That space? Well, that's one injury. When you go down and your pant pulls up, shin guard, that area, man, a lot of guys get sliced.
Yep.
So I did patches for them. I told them what to do and so on and so forth. So if someone has a specific need, I'll try and come up with the solution.
So somebody does have that need. Is it something they just they float you a note, float you something on your website, and you kind of say, well, this is my thoughts, and this is something I haven't really thought about, so let's do this or let's do that.
Absolutely.
So is that how they get to you?
Yeah, they do. I think I built, because I started a custom program. So that's one of the things that I had someone reach out because I had a slash guard. They wanted it 6.5 inches instead of 5 inches. So I did it, and I charge a little upcharge because I have to pay my sewer. But then word got out, and then I let people know that I will, if you have a problem, try and fix it, or I'll try and adapt something so that it's comfort and your players protected. I'll tell you, Paul, one of the things is I do not take it lightly when a parent comes to me and they've chosen my equipment to protect their 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, whatever age. I am like, I have a responsibility. I'm not like, oh, great, no, it's a responsibility, because I don't ever want to hear that some kid, my equipment was seriously hurt. It's never happened. I don't know how I would react. Honestly, I don't want to ever find out. But I really, when anybody orders, I just feel very fortunate, and that they've chosen my gear, to protect their loved one, because that's what it is,
Yeah, no, and it's really, I mean, I love this kind of stuff because I love this game. So, and I love talking about this game, but if somebody gets hurt, it takes away some of that, not that it doesn't take away the love, but it also it says, oof, this is just real too. There's a reality too. It's not like, it's like being in the movie where it's not real, it's make believe, but kids do get hurt, and they can get hurt, and and it ends careers at times. Like you're talking about the cut along above the shin guard. I mean, that's what took out Gabe Landeskog. I mean, so he's done because of that reason, and it was an inadvertent skate cut. So so anything like that, I think for those that that tune into this and want to learn more, I think I would say I don't want to wear Dave out, but I think, you know, if you have a concern or a question or even just you know, bounce an idea, I think it sounds like you're more than willing to take that on, and hell, you responded to us, which is awesome. So, I mean,
listen, you're hockey guys, man, and I mean, it's just hockey's in my blood, you know, and I can't play, but it keeps me in the game, and especially, you know, I mean, I've seen too many pictures. If people, you know, it's really funny because I put up a picture of a kid that took 8 stitches in a cut resistant garment. Now, that's a whole different discussion, okay?
Mhm.
Because what happens is they put it on the outside and a kid goes like
Mhm.
that and it moves, right? So I put up and it wasn't graphic, it was an accident. And holy crap, you know, the internet can be very nice and they can be very vicious. And they're like, oh, you're trying to sell on, you know, and I go, no, but this is a reality. I've seen too many pictures in 14 years. If people saw what I saw, I mean, at first it was just, I'm not desensitized. I really want to make that clear. It still bothers me, but it's come to a point where I see open wounds, like
Mhm.
open. And I've gotten so used to it, which I don't want to get used to it, but I
Yeah.
get pictures. So when people go, oh, you're trying to pray, I don't show anything. Like I really don't, because I don't believe that. But there's a lot of people that it's the old, well, it's not going to happen to me. But it's like,
For sure.
why your teeth knocked out and then buy a mouth guard?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
Norm brought
Yeah.
up earlier, I think, like start them young. Like the kids, just start them young and let them get used to it.
Yeah.
And then there's no issue. It becomes part of their gear.
Yeah,
You know,
it becomes normal because I mean, you wouldn't see a kid today play without a helmet. You wouldn't see a kid today play without shin guards. I mean, I remember growing up. I mean, we were just getting introduced to face shields when I started playing, and so I mean, you wouldn't think of doing that now. So to
no,
your point is introduce them now, get them used to it, and get them comfortable with it, so that it's not considered you know, you're not considered soft because you're wearing a slash guard or a cut guard on your wrist or your socks, you know. So I think it's really important to get them young, and even, you know, to educate
well,
the older community too.
the older's a little, but especially the neck guards. I mean, that
Yeah.
it's funny because my neck guard actually fits. So I do something called build a shirt, which is you choose the garment. This garment, by the way, this I'm wearing my garment. It's a soft garment, but there's technology in here, so it's temperature regulating. So it'll regulate your body temperature, but also it's 4 out of 5 on a wicking scale. So people can choose the garment, the size. Then they could choose if they want a neck guard, and then also the neck guard on the size they want. If they want wrist guards, I charge them for the wrist guards, and my wrist guards are wrist guards added onto this so they don't move. They do not shift 100%.
Right.
But one of the biggest things is my neck guard is supposed to fit as it does. Oh, it's too high. Oh, I'm not you.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, what drives me nuts, okay, is that you got the pros, and I hate even saying this. There's a vet that I'm making a shirt, some of his shirts for, and adding a neck guard, and he's never worn one. Okay, never
Yeah.
worn a neck guard. 1.5 inches high. Now, which I'm sorry, you know, I mean, I'm not, and there's a part of me that's fighting, going, oh, I don't want to do this. Oh, I should, but I did it because something is better than nothing.
Sure.
For
Material that
sure.
I'm playing with is a really high cut level. So I did it reluctantly, but you know what I mean? Like, I'm just trying to appease.
Hmm.
They're grown ass men,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but they don't want to wear this stuff. They
Yeah.
do want to wear it.
Yeah,
That
I know. And like I said, it's until it's mandatory, I guess, then like face shields, like half shields. I mean, they
Like
made
the
it
half shield
mandatory.
thing was the
yeah.
biggest thing that I could think of in recent years. That was, you know, something that's been the next safety thing that really has come into fruition. So it'll be interesting to see if, you know, because I think they are going in that direction of, some sort of neck protection being kind of a requirement for the NHL. So, and it's definitely because, once you see that, your favorite NHL players wearing the stuff, it's going to make it easier for the kids to be like, okay, well, they're wearing it, so I should. It just becomes a part of their equipment, kind of like what you were saying.
I agree. As long as it's worn properly, that's
Yes.
because it's like the Canadian junior team. They went off, and I mean, they had their neck guards. They folded them, and they had it to here. And I'm going. There's a learning opportunity, like teaching opportunity. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Because kids are watching these kids, and they emulate them. And when they're not wearing the neck guard properly, and what people don't realize is that in Canada, and I grew up in a neck guard, to get a neck guard, you need a certification. Pay a lot of money for that certification, which is so outdated and so wrong. And that's a fight I'm having. But the bottom line is this: we spend thousands of dollars to get it certified. And then a kid goes on the ice and he's wearing it like this. So I'm going, so it's, you know what I mean? It's like the battle, which is it up to an official? Is it up to the coach? Who's it up to make sure they're wearing it properly? Because there's no point in any of this unless it's used properly. It's like a helmet. If you don't have the helmet on properly.
Yeah.
Or
the face shield too loose, or,
way up here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
So, look, I really appreciate you coming on and talking about this. I do have one final question,
Yes.
to kind of a little bit transitioning off topic, but any interest in getting back into acting? Because I mean, I think you stepped away from it. There, you're really developing, and but it seems like you had a pretty good run there for a while, and I could see roles that would fit well with the way.
Thank you. I mean, knock on wood, genetics has been very kind to me, even at my age. Acting was such a. I think why I love what I'm doing now. I'm an artist. I'm creative. My mind is always, I don't look at things normally. And when I say that in a positive way, because I mean, people have to understand, like when you're an actor, it's like, I'll take this little bolt, and in acting class, it's not a bolt, but this is the secret, entrance to a different world. You make up imagination. So I don't look at things like other people do. So I'm always looking kind of outside the box. To get back to the acting, unfortunately, what happened was after my last head injury, I was on set shooting something, and I had memory issues, and that's one of the effects. And I had an audition, and I had an issue remembering my lines. And I said, that's it for me. I knew, because people have to realize when we're on set, it's not like when you're shooting a movie, you'll shoot a page a day. Okay, that's the big actors like the Tom Cruises and stuff. When we do a TV show, we're doing 14, 16 pages a day. And I knew I didn't want to be put in a position where if I forgot, holding up the crew, I start to panic. So for sure. So I kind of, I put it to rest. I've had a great career. It's funny because I was asked to audition 3 times this year, and I'm like, really? Like, I love it, but it's not my world anymore. It was never, and by the way, it never, what's the word? I've lost the word that wasn't who David was. It was a job. I was very fortunate to have a great career, to be recognized and all that great stuff. Didn't mean anything to me. If it makes someone happy, bravo. But I've moved on, and I'm very happy where I'm at now. Well,
we're glad you've moved on to the technology and the arena that you've moved into. So I think it's it's definitely something, that we need to continue to push forward and spread the word and educate young player, old player, anybody, because you never want to see somebody laying on the ice and with a lot of a lot of red stuff circled around them, because once you see that, that's not a good sign.
And you know what, Paul, and I'm just going to go back to something you said about, when we were talking about injuries and stuff. One of the things that people don't realize, and I ask these kids, I know our time's, up, but the mental recovery. No one
Yeah.
thinks it's one thing to get stitches. I've had lots of stitches, but the mental recovery of being sliced,
Mhm.
how, when I've talked to parents about this, because I go, how's his mental state? And they tell me, yeah, not so good. It's better. That we forget. And it's so there's a ripple effect to all of this, to not being protected, to getting cut, to getting stitched, but then the recovery and where does that go?
Yeah.
So I'd like people to think of, oh, it doesn't happen to me. Well, it does. My philosophy is you are going to get cut.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's how I develop stuff, thinking you are going to get cut. And I hope you don't, but I do that so that, I know that I'm trying to give you the best of the best, because I think it might happen, you know?
Yeah, no, and again, really thank you for coming on, David. It's been really educational for me. And I hope we can have you back on when new stuff comes on the market. We'd love to help you just spread the word of the technology, the development, and how it impacts the youth game, the pro game, and just player safety in general, because kids don't realize how on the edge they are when they play this absolutely great game. And I love this game more than most. But you make sure you're protected, and I think what you're doing is yeoman's work, because it's so important that we continue to push this forward.
Absolutely.
Well, and you know what? That's why we're going to share a link with your viewers, and we're going to get them 20% off, and let them, if they want to try it, whatever. And like you said, anyone wants to reach out to me, I am available. It's 7 days a week for me,
Yeah.
seriously.
Well,
So,
that's good. Well, David, again, appreciate you coming on, and
guys,
this will end this segment, and for Cam, myself, and our special guest, David, thanks for listening to Kane's Local.
thank you, and thank you for having me. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
This episode of Kane's Local is brought to you by CutShield. CutShield Hockey started the cut-resistant category in hockey over 14 years ago. Their protective gear is on the wrist and feet of some of the biggest names in the game, including William Nylander and our very own Dmitry Orlov. They have prevented serious injury to over 35 NHL players and countless players in lower leagues. Unlike other cut-resistant protection on the market, their gear washes and dries like regular garment and does not degrade. CutShield hockey protection is cut-resistant, not cut-proof, and it will reduce the risk of serious injury. And listeners, you can get 20% off your first CutShield product by using Kane's Local at checkout. That's Kane's Local for 20% off your first CutShield product. CutShield. Play hard, play safe, play gray. Another huge thanks to David for sitting down with us and talking to us again. A wealth of knowledge. I'm going to pass it over to you guys because you guys actually got to sit down with him for the interview. So I'm going to pass it over to you guys and let you guys kind of take it from here.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and a huge thanks to David, and it's kind of a funny story about timing on how to get these interviews put together. But his product, his story, if nobody, whatever you get out of the interview, it's awesome. His story is so cool, what he's doing for player safety, and I really, really enjoy having the time to talk to him about what's next for player safety and CutShield in general. So, yeah, Cam and I had the pleasure of sitting down and talking with him, and I think it's definitely an interview we're going to do again when he comes on again to talk
Yeah.
about new products that he's got in the pipeline.
Yeah, for sure. No, he's doing good stuff for sure, and he's been doing it for a while. Just been kind of pushing the envelope for quite a while, just trying to, get these type of safety equipment, stuff that he has. He's trying to push it to be more of a widely used thing. And again, kind of like we touched on in the interview, I mean, you all can see, William Nylander in the Amazon Prime, series
Dmitry
wearing CutShield
Orlov,
socks.
we know
So
that for a fact. He's
NHL
wearing
players
them.
are definitely wearing them. They're
Yeah.
Oh yeah, okay. So Orlov's wearing them as well. So it's just one of those where you have a lot of NHLers that got to get used to the stuff for sure. It's gonna be a tough ask to get a lot of the current generation. So really, a lot of his focus is obviously the newer generation and upcoming. Because if you can wear it from a young age, it's definitely going to be more comfortable. The higher up you get. So, but yeah, no. Shout out to him. He didn't have to do it, and he was very gracious when
and
he did
that
come on. So
nice little
it was a
25%
lot of
off
fun to talk to
promo
him
deal
for
that he
sure.
gave us is always welcome, and we're happy to be able to share it with you guys. 2020. It's 2020. It's 20. It's only 20. Sorry. But just happy we get to share it with you guys. So, get into the stuff because
guys.
as somebody who has gotten cut by a skate, I was bleeding directly out of my knee, and I can post the scar someday maybe. But as somebody who's been cut by skates, it's the least fun experience in your life. And especially, I was thankfully cut in an area where it wasn't that aggressive, but you get some of these areas on the wrist where there's some arteries, necks, arteries, ankles, that whole area. Be as protected as you guys can be, and his product's the best out there, so make sure that you're going to check it out. But we just wanted to thank him again, but we're going to turn it right back over. Carolina's goaltending off to a relatively hot start. I didn't think Kochetkov had his best game against St. Louis, but outside of that, I mean, Anderson's been hot as a wick right so far this year. I think his numbers are backing that as well too. And outside of the one game in St. Louis, I thought the Kochetkov's previous game against New Jersey was right up there, was one of his better performances that he's had. But I'm going to pass it over to you guys. What are you guys seeing out of the goaltenders so far?
I like them both at the moment. I agree with you. I think Kochekov had and I don't know if it was so much him last night as it was that you create that, and we'll talk about the transition side of our game. But when you don't control certain spaces on the ice, you give too many opportunities to teams. I mean, I don't care who it is. You give NHL teams too many chances. They're gonna think you pay, and I think we're just off a little bit, and some of those he probably could have and probably wants to have back, but for the most part, I think they've played well through the first 4 games of the season. Again, small sample size, but I think Freddie looks really good right now. I'm not saying that the kid looks bad, but I'm saying Freddie looks really good right now, and I think he's still a little bit. We're still a little bit unsure about the stability of that long term. Can he play 40 games? But I think he's had a really good start.
For sure. Yeah, no, I think Freddie's obviously looked really good. I thought Kochetkov played really well against New Jersey. Like I thought he looked really, really good. Yeah, like I said, it wasn't for me with Kochetkov against St. Louis. It was it's always the saves above expected kind of number that you look at. Which again, we all know I'm not the biggest fan of like off the wall statistics. I'll get into that in a minute, but there's one of those where if Kochetkov can have one of those, if he can have one of those, the Canes are in the game. Like it's a tie game realistically. And then for me, if he can stop that third goal where the guy went between his legs, if he stops that one and the Canes go into the second intermission at 2-1, it's a completely different game because the Canes come out different. Well, I hope they don't come out different. They scored 2 at the very first part of the first 3 minutes of the third period, but it allows them. Then at that point they're up 3-2 instead of being down or instead of being tied. So that creates a different game for sure. Because then you don't know if the Blues are kind of maybe back on their heels a little bit. They're like, oh no, now we're down. Now we got to try and make some chances or create something, and it opens up space, and the Canes can turn the puck over and kind of go back to work. So that's the only one I really think that he probably could have had back. Other than that, I mean, I thought he played pretty well. But yeah, facing 19 shots, it's tough. I mean, especially when they're that high quality for the last 2 goals, especially when they're right in front of him. Literally,
the
no
harder
one in
thing
front of
too
him
is
and
he faced
the puck
4
carrier.
shots through the first period. First 20 minutes of the game, he basically saw nothing, and then all of a sudden, the second period, they get a couple really sloppy turnovers gifted to them. And the bigger thing with St. Louis is they're not afraid to get to the front of the net. I mean, the first 2 goals, I don't think there's a goalie in the NHL outside of maybe Vasilevsky and Shesterkin that's stopping either one of those. Maybe Freddie just because he's humongous, but outside, I mean, you just have to be able to take up mass space in order to stop the screen like that. But I mean, great screens from St. Louis. And I think that if we can take anything out of that game, the importance of a screen. I mean, Carolina struggles with that, and they've struggled with that forever. I feel like they just don't get enough eyes or enough bodies in front of eyes. And sometimes that's a symptom of we're taking too many just aggressive shots and we can't get guys too funneled to the front of the net. I.e., I feel like Burns does this a couple times where the puck will come up to him, and instead of trying to, wait for traffic to get there, he just absolutely corks one, which fine. But, we need to understand the importance of the fact that if you take goalies' eyes away, it's a lot harder for them to make a save. I know that sounds really stupid, but it's just fact. Like, look at what happened with Kochetkov last night. I think if Kochetkov has a little bit more confidence, I think he really got his confidence shaken in the second. I think if he has a little bit more, he even has a shot with that fourth one. Kapanen has a ton of speed coming through, but I mean, on those situations, you're seeing a flying poke check. You're seeing something else from Kochetkov if he's playing with, loads of confidence. I just think he played a little shallow, didn't come out as aggressive as he could have, and didn't take away a good enough angle. And I think that's just a symptom of giving up 3 off of not that many shots in the second, which not his fault outside of the third goal, to be completely honest with you. I took the dog outside, came back in, third goal was scored. And I'm like, what the hell just happened? It was commercial break, and I come back and we're down 3-1. So I didn't get to see it per se, but I'll take your word for it, Cam, that's probably one he could have had back as well too. So I think it's not going to be the symptom of the whole year. I think that a big piece of that came from what we're going to talk about next, which is a very sloppy neutral zone and a very sloppy blue line. We turned over way too many pucks at our own defensive blue line. That it's disgusting. It was disgusting to see that, especially in the second period. I think first and third we had the gas going, but that second period, St. Louis did what we typically do to teams in the second period. They just hemmed us in the zone the whole time.
Yeah. I turned it. I watched this first period. I recorded it, and then I watched it, and then I started watching live the second period. I should have gone to bed because I think I was the jinx, because I was like, holy crap, this is not the same period. I'm just like, what in the hell happened to this team? I said, so I don't know if St. Louis just woke up. We went to sleep. I think a combination of both, but and then we said it in our pregame. The key to this game is controlling that neutral zone, and we didn't do it in the second period, and the result was what you saw. And we came back in the third, and to your point earlier, Kyle, we got both goals came off traffic, through legs, through a screen. So the screen works, the traffic works. We know that it works. So, but I think the neutral zone was the biggest crux in that second period. Is we did a terrible job. And if you watch the interview, and it's funny because we sort of do know what we're talking about a little bit. You'd like to think we do, but Jacob Slavin said the same thing in the intermission report. He's like, we're terrible in the neutral zone. I was like, we got to be better. We got to be tighter. We got to limit transition. We got to do all this stuff. If you go back and watch the interview, he said exactly the same thing. And against teams like St. Louis, you've got to be there.
Plays with
you got to be
depth,
tight.
and when you have depth and speed like they do, you just can't allow them space and time. The other big shout out I want to give is to Hofer, the goalie out of St. Louis, because if he's not playing the way he did, I think the first period was probably up by more than 1 goal, and I think that kind of changes the outcome of the game a little bit more, because I think Carolina doesn't let their foot almost off the gas, or maybe even if they do, Kochetkov has enough of a cushion to where he feels a little bit more confident as well too. But coming out of that first period with 19 shots and only 1 goal, that's kind of a little bit of a worry for me, especially with the offense. But granted, they turned up the wick in the third and got 2 back, and then St. Louis comes right back and scores the fourth to to end up taking it. Another one thing I want to add, Andrei Svechnikov, can you please put your stick on the ice when you're in front of the net? Two times he had his stick up by his hips and the puck goes either right through his feet. Granted, I'm not saying that he's going to get down to it any quicker, but you're giving yourself a better chance. Like you're giving yourself a chance to at least get it. Where if you're having to travel with your stick as well too, I mean that one that Nate just flung across the front of the net. If his stick's on the ice, he's got a way better shot of actually getting down to that and actually scoring. Where his stick's floating in the air, now all of a sudden he's got to travel, 4 feet, 3 feet down to the ice and then find the location of it. It makes it a lot tougher. So please, Andrei, if you're sitting that front, just put your stick on the ice. That's all I ask.
Yeah, and he's doing I mean, he's getting to the front of the net better, but man, he still drifts a lot. And I mean, we talk about net front, but he's got to, like you said, stick on the ice, but he's got to keep it rear in there more often than not, because he'll drift and then all of a sudden it's out of the zone and transition the other way. So I don't get me wrong, I love the way his game is right now. He does so much more good than not having to stick on the ice or having a little bit of bump on the net front. But if he wants to be that power forward, then that's his kitchen, man. He's got to get there on the wall, and he's got to work his rear end off in front of the net. So
yeah, he'll score $1 billion if he sits in front of the net.
Oh, I know.
And just like I don't know if he realizes how many he will actually score if he just has if he has that nose for the net. We talk about Nason and how he kind of has that, like that's what his game is now. Nason's not very defensively responsible, but offensively in the O zone in front of the net, that's his house. That's where he makes his money, is right there. So I think if Fetch can get good there, he's got the skill, he has the speed, he has the shot. If he can just figure out that net front where he's kind of can either tip pucks or at least maybe even put himself into a position where he's like, oh, if he's shooting it, okay, if the goalie saves it, he's going to shoot at this angle. It's going to be probably in this area. So maybe even as soon as the shot comes, kind of peel off and just, be in the area where you think the puck's going to be. Anticipation. And again, that all comes with experience, and he's going to get there for sure.
Yeah.
But he'll score a ton.
And you don't really
if he
have
gets
to be
well
in
up there.
tight either. I mean,
No, you don't. You don't have to
be
be on top of him.
You can be out. You can give yourself a little space, because I think
You can be about a foot or 2 feet out.
because he may be a little bit worried about, okay, well, last year I got chopped in the ribs and I was out for X number of games, and then I got railed in the shin off the side of the knee by Aho off a shot on the wall. So all of that crap creeps into your brain. I mean, you guys know it as players. I mean, standing in front of the net's not fun.
I enjoyed it.
That was your wheelhouse. And I mean, I know. I mean, but at the same time, it's one of those things that it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt no matter what you do.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
It's
talking
gonna hurt,
about,
so you got to be
Cam was
gotta be
one
willing
dishing out the pain. I
endure the
remember he had
pain.
a penalty kill stick that was like 3 pounds heavier than his normal stick, so he could whack guys in front of the net. It hurt more.
Yeah.
That thing was a piece of 2x4. That was all that was.
It was fun. It's like it had lead in it. I don't know. I don't know what they
old
made it out
CC.
of,
I think
but
it was a
very
$20
heavy.
CCM stick. Made out of rebarb.
Yeah, it was like a $60 CCM stick. Yeah,
All
it
right.
was. It was very heavy.
You guys got anything else you guys want to talk about?
Yeah. The useless stats are back again this year. I saw one last night, and the remote almost went through the TV or the window. I don't know which one. I don't know which one was closer at the time, but it was Brod's win percentage on the second game of a back-to-back is the best in the NHL with a minimum of 75 games played. You want to tell me how useless that is? Like, I hate that so much. It makes me infuriated. I hate seeing it. Who is sitting there like, oh, that's pretty interesting? I don't know who is. I don't want to talk to him. If whoever thinks that's interesting, I'm sorry, but I hate that stuff, man. I can't stand it. Like, again, and And I know Rod probably hates it too, because he's like, dude, it's just, we take it day by day. Like, each game is so much different than the next. Like, you know, you win today, you move on, you win the next day, kind of thing. The useless stats. I mean, and I know, you know, the guys who create the stats, they're doing it to fill time on the air. Like, I get it. I understand. But I'd rather hear Tripp talk about oil, gas, and gravy than hearing about a stupid stat like that, because they touch on the stat and then they're like, oh, okay, and then they move on. They don't like sit there and mull over it, because
when you
it's
have
not
to
that
put
interesting.
when you have to put 6 different
Like,
stipulations
no
on a
one
stat
cares,
to make it
man.
work
Like,
for
who
you, it does.
cares?
It's just no, don't.
That's what I mean. When you have to cherry pick the certain, like, it has to be the second game of a back-to-back. You have to have a minimum of 75 games played in the NHL. Like, come on,
Well,
man.
I
What are we
bet you.
doing?
Yeah.
Anyway, that was my soapbox for the day. Yeah, it's back again, and I'll
I
probably see
bet you
another one.
Rod
And
Brindamore
if I
has
see
the
another one,
best
trust me,
face-off
you all will hear about
percentage
it too.
between a player and coach career time frame, between his actual team playing good, with a minimum of 80 games played on both sides of it. Yeah.
Minimum 80 games played between the years of 2010 and 2024. You know, it's the dumbest stuff alive, man. I really do. I like some of the stats and how they can track some stuff, but some of that stuff, man, they just go too far. Like, stop cherry picking so much,
Yeah.
man. Like, let's just look at his win percentage.
Yeah.
You know, let's
Yeah.
do that. How about that? Just win percentage. You know, or
Yeah.
I'll take this win percentage versus St. Louis. Just do that. Like, as a coach, his win percentage versus St. Louis. Cool. I'll take that. But the cherry picking, the second game of a
Especially
back-to-back,
because
minimum 75 games played,
every
it's
other guy in that
it's
list
nauseating. I
seemed
hate
like
it.
they were either between
I
the
hate it so
decades
much,
of the
man.
70s and like the 30s.
That's what I mean. They're like from the 50s and like the 70s. I'm like, dog, no one cares, man. Like, no one's looking at that and
That's a
writing
good
down. They're like,
stat.
they got their notepad out. They're like, you know what? That's a good stat. I'm gonna write that down. I'm gonna talk about that at the bar tomorrow night. Like, no one's doing that, man. And if you do
I hope
talk
they
about it
send
at
you
the bar,
back
I
in.
hope the bartender kicks you out. So anyway, we're moving on. I can't.
I'd rather hear
I'm gonna
Tripp
get
talk
more mad
about
than I
his
already am about this
enjoyment of
stupid stuff.
Reese's again.
So the
Yeah.
only other thing, Kyle, that I wanted to chat on, I don't think we mentioned it, but penalty kill. I think our penalty kill's been really good. Again, small sample size, but I think, last night we won face-offs at the right time, and we didn't do it. We hadn't done it in the first 2 games, but I think last night we did a really nice job of it. And against Pittsburgh, we did a nice job. However, we're on the penalty kill too much. We got to stay out of the damn box. I mean, that's going to be our downfall if we can't play a little bit more disciplined as we get further into the season. Because as these teams get their power plays adjusted and fine tuned, and they're going to find speed, they're going to find the net, they're going to find opportunities. And if we give a team 4, 5, 6, 7 opportunities in a game, it's going to hurt us. And but I think our penalty kills look good.
Speaking of the penalty kill, how about Burns taking a shot off the neck?
Well, I was about to say the last. Oh, okay. Yeah, that was a tough one. I'm glad he didn't get hit in the face.
Was it, in my opinion,
which penalty
my question to you guys, was that a penalty?
No.
The Sean Walker penalty? It was a Sean Walker roughing penalty.
Oh, that was definitely not a penalty.
It was a hit.
It was a hit. It was crazy. Well, and then you look at the funnier thing too is that you look at the continuation of the video. I don't know who was standing beside Walker. I think it was Robinson or something. The puck was gone. He got exploded.
Yeah,
like he got blown to pieces. Like look at it's crazy. Yeah, but again, you're gonna get those. Like it's gonna happen. You're gonna get bad calls. I'm gonna try my best not to harp on the refs this year as much as we kind of have. Obviously, they can have an impact on a game depending on the time of the game that they call penalties. And even Ghost kind of talked about it after the game. He was like, "Yeah, I kind of killed us there with taking those 2 penalties back to back, pretty much.
Yeah,
killed the momentum for sure that they had because they started off the second pretty good, like the Canes did. So, and then they take those back-to-back penalties. They're on the kill. Guys are a little bit tired. Obviously, kind of changes the dynamic of how it plays. So yeah, I mean it's tough, but yeah, I mean it wasn't a penalty. And then obviously Rod was very animated on the bench after Burns got hit in the neck because he was basically telling the ref, he's like, "Hey man, if you don't blow that call right there, Burns doesn't get hit in the neck, and my guy's not hurt." So
Yeah.
I mean, he was lighting them up, but yeah, like I said, the refs, I mean, they kind of stayed out of the way in the third, which I was kind of glad about. Outside of the power play goal, I think that Ghost scored. That was the one. I think that was the one call they had in the
The
third.
only
That
thing
might have been the one
and then
outside of
Sleevan's
coincidentals, maybe.
puck out
But
over
yeah.
the glass. But the issue I have with
Oh,
it is
that's
that
right.
if
Puck
you
over
set
the
a
glass.
precedent
That's
on
what
what
it
you're
was.
going to
Yeah.
call, they let a lot of roughing calls go in the third period all of a sudden. I was like,
Exactly.
yeah, I
Oh
was
my
like,
God, you could.
what's going on?
I mean, 2 or 3 plays later. I mean, there could have been 3 calls.
And Aho gets two-handed in the back
He does, and
off a dumb face-off.
I know, it's like, what the hell?
Like it was
I
a
mean,
dummy face-off. Oh, well, sorry, I won't harp on the refs. The linesmen, man. These linesmen
I
need to
know.
drop the puck. Dude, stop doing they're doing this. They're trying to jump them. And I'm glad the NHL changed the rule, though, that you don't get kicked out immediately. You get like a
You
warning.
get a warning.
But dude, stop pump faking a face-off, man.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as you see the guy's stick set on for the home team side, you take one look and you drop the puck. Like you don't need to sit there and go, all right. Because the more you wait,
These
the
guys are
longer, the
high as
easier it
shit
is
on
for the other
adrenaline.
guys to jump because they're
Yeah.
going to want to jump. And then it's that's what I mean. Like, what do you expect them to do? Like, they're not just going to sit there like, statues. It's not like, the NFL where they're going to sit there and just wait for the ball to be snapped. Like, come on, man. It's great. Yeah. They got to clean up the linesmen. But again, I'm definitely glad they got the rule figured out they give them a warning. They call them back. Now, and again, that benefits the Canes a lot because you look even last night, the ref basically was, signaling to kick the guy out of the circle. And then I don't know what one of the other refs was like, hey man, give him a warning. What are we doing? Like, and he's like, all right, you can come back in, and he waves him in. I can't tell you how many times Aho got waved back in or Stahl got waved back in.
Yeah.
Drury got waved back in. I think every one of our centers got waved back in multiple times. So, I mean, it is what it is. But yeah, I mean, these dude, just drop the puck, man. And I know there's more to it than that. Like, I get it. And I'm not saying or claiming I've been an NFL ref, an NHL
Dan was a
ref,
replacement ref in the NFL when they missed their refs.
Drop the puck, man, please. Yeah, no, I guess so, man.
That's going to be a new segment on our show. It's going to be I don't want to harp on the refs, but however,
yeah, I don't want to harp on the refs. However, the referees specifically, the linesmen, I view them
just
differently.
drop it.
Yeah,
And then the other thing too is
just
that if you're not 100% sure on Carolina on an offsides call, wave it off. Wait for the review. I'm tired of these 50-50 ones because there was one last night where I'm pretty sure we kept it in.
I agree.
And all of a sudden, yeah, I think Dad's having audio issues here. But yeah, that is close. And then all of a sudden they blowed the thing dead. And it's like that could have been an offensive opportunity. And if they score on that offensive opportunity and you come back and realize it was actually onside and you're about to blow it dead, well, you're going to make the mistake. So just let the play go on and you can call it back if needed. I'm tired of the 50-50. Like it's right there. Why are you blowing it dead?
Yeah.
Because what if you're wrong? If you're wrong, then all of a sudden you're taking away a great ace. Because it was Gostisbehere last night. He kept it. I'm pretty sure he kept on the blue line. It was going to be a 3-on-1 back to St. Louis's net. And then all of a sudden it's blown dead. And it's really like, we don't get it. Like, okay, like let the play go. But yeah, I'm not going to harp on the refs, but
yeah. And then and talk about that too. Like and I had a question for you guys because I did want to ask this.
I didn't see
on
it,
that
so
third goal.
No
are you challenging that offside if you're Rod? No, I know.
Even if it's a 50-50, if it's the ruling on the ice was onside and they can't 100% define it as offsides, then it's going to go and it's going to go for St. Louis. And then all of a sudden we're shorthanded again, down 3-1. It's a tough situation. It's a lot like, I think it was New Jersey, maybe. Yeah. I don't remember what team it was, but, yeah, it had to have been New Jersey because Kochetkov was in net, but I think it was New Jersey's second goal. Tripp was losing his mind about goaltender interference on the broadcast. And I'm like, man, I don't like I get what you're saying, because it's gotten the precedent's
is that
already
one?
the precedent has already been set that even if the guy's feet are just inside of the blue, it's disallowing the goalie from playing his position. So I get what Tripp was saying on the feed about it, but that's one of those ones where it's like, hey, it's a 3-2 game now. Let's not give them the opportunity to go right back on the power play and make it a 3-3 game, because New Jersey, when they get on the power play, it's dangerous. So it's like one of those 50-50 ones. It's tough to say yes because of the momentum. So I think it's a lot like that in that St. Louis game. Plus, Rod always, I feel like, loses coach's challenge. I feel like
he doesn't love the challenge unless it's so blatantly obvious. Like he doesn't do the 50-50 challenges, even if the penalty kill is good, like which it has been.
Oh, I'm sure they do.
I don't know.
It's going to be in the next feed.
Oh my God, they probably do. Yep, it's out there somewhere. Somebody wrote it down in their notebook.
One final thing I want to leave us on.
Somebody has it somewhere.
I don't know if it was Chicago's first game of the year, maybe second game, but Bradley Nadeau and Scott Morrow both get their first AHL goal the other night as well too. And then did you guys see the words of the owner of Chicago? Cam, you saw it? Yeah, the owner of Chicago's like, what do you get about it? Okay, let me kind of preface on what he said. He basically was saying that he doesn't like the agreement between Carolina and Chicago because he feels like we're not providing enough support or whatever it is for them as far as the player development. I'm like, even like ifs, ands, and buts with the support. I get maybe we don't have enough scouts there all the time, but I mean, you look at the record last year when they went independent. They were one of the worst teams in the AHL, and then they get us back, and all of a sudden they win game one. And the 2 years before that, we won a Calder, and then we had another winning record where we were like second in the division. Like, you need our players in order to be good, and you're selling more seats doing it this way. Why are you so angry?
Yeah, I mean, it's more of like
not having control.
He doesn't really have any control over it. So I think that's what he hates, that he doesn't have. Yeah, he hates that he doesn't have any control. He's basically at the whim of whoever the Canes want to send down, and whoever they want to pull up, they can do it. So that's kind of his gripe about it. But again, I mean, and it's a business. Like it's its own entity, and I know the NHL teams have kind of been griping about this for a while, and it's not just this that's happening. It's like other affiliated teams with the AHL and the NHL teams are kind of griping about this because technically the AHL is a completely different league. Like they're a separate entity.
Financial.
They don't have
direct
like ownership from the NHL. They're their own entity itself. So they can make their own rules, but they can't. It's kind of they can make their own team, but they can't. Like it's one of those where
they bought a franchise.
It's frustrating for them because they feel like they're the owners. They want to have control over, like, hey, I want these players, I want this guy, because if they could choose, they would probably pick probably the best players they could pick, as far as like guys that have the most NHL experience, or guys that are probably the older guys, like, because they want to win championships, because that sells seats. So that's what they're looking at. But I mean, I understand he's frustrated. Do I think he should have gone and said it in public like that? No, man, you got to keep that to yourself. But again, he's the owner of an AHL team, so I mean, he's probably worth what, like $1 million at most. So he's like, I mean, he's going to say what he wants to say. So he can do whatever he wants. He's the owner of the team, but at the end of the day, you got to pay the piper.
Yeah,
and that's the Carolina Hurricanes. So Dundon will probably shut that down pretty quick.
The AHL
probably
owner should have like a 5% stake in the organization ahead of them, like in the NHL. Like it should be like standard inside of the contract between an AHL and NHL team. Like you get
like an owners association kind of thing.
Where like you get like a 7%
with
stake in the Carolina Hurricanes, and while with this contract's in play, you get 7% of the revenue that's coming in from Carolina, because then all of a sudden it forces them to be like, they actually care about how the Hurricanes are doing, because then they want to develop the players in order to
so they want to develop, because
if you have
a
winning organization, you're going to sell more seats, you're going to gain more revenue off of it. So it's like, and even then, if the AHL team is developing players the way they should, look at Carolina 2 years ago. We won the Calder and made it to the Eastern Conference Finals in the same year. It's like, so we have talent, and then on top of that, we have an NHL roster that has the ability to make it. Well, if Chicago kept developing the players the way they were, instead of taking that year-long gap where we had to find guys, I mean, we had guys that were AHL players easily playing in the East Coast League because we just couldn't find homes for them. And it's like that. I mean, if Chicago was to keep on the development, what's to say that we don't have 2 or 3 more guys from Chicago on this roster instead of going out to grab guys because we didn't have a development program for them? And I think the easiest way to solve that is, like I said, like you said, Cam, have an owners association between the two organizations, even bring in the East Coast League. Really, the East Coast gets, say, 8% of the AHL revenue, so that it's the same thing through and through. You care about how the team ahead of you is doing because you're getting money off of them. So it creates this incentive to actually develop players and not bitch and moan that you just want the best players to win a championship. It's like, well, no, because even if you win an AHL championship and you're selling out all the seats, you're not making nearly as much as if the NHL team wins a championship and you have a 10% stake in the organization. You're making way more money that way. So you're more focused on getting to that point in that pinnacle at the top level. Oh, they're not going to want to do that.
Get the NHL owners to want to, cut 10%. They're not going to want to do that. But again, I mean, the MLB has found a way to do this. Like, that's what they do with their farm leagues and their, the AAA baseball affiliates, the AA, the A baseball affiliates. Like, the money travels downhill from the MLB team. So, it should be incentivized like, hey, we'll cut you off this much if we have a player that makes our opening roster, or from your team that developed with your team last year that made our roster this year, to show that you've developed them properly. They're good enough to play now. It's like, okay, good job. Here's a bonus, basically. It should be something like that. And I think the NHL, and I know the NHL and the AHL, there's been a long going kind of dispute about this whole thing, and they've been trying to get this worked out for a long time, I believe. But yeah, if they can have some kind of like collective bargaining agreement between the two associations, and even throw the ECHL in there, because they're technically a feeder league too for the AHL, and then to the NHL. So yeah, it'll be interesting though. But yeah, it's, as far as the comments go, do I agree that he should have said it out loud in, a public setting? No. But do I understand where he's coming from, that he's frustrated that he doesn't have control of the thing that he owns? Yeah, it's frustrating for sure. I mean, it'd be like Dundon not really being able to control realistically, like what players he buys or sells or whatever. Like, and I know he kind of leaves that to Tulsky, but at the end of the day, he still signs off on everything. So, he still has to control realistically, because he fronts the money. So, and I think that's the frustrating part for the other guys.
No,
like,
I
he's
get
like,
that.
I'm having to pay these guys and I didn't even hire them, So that's the frustrating part too for him, is that's where I understand. But at the same point, man, just why you have to say it out in public? Like, I don't understand what his MO is there, because he's only hurting himself. Because now the Canes are going to be like, oh, okay, you want to do that? All right, we're throwing Brendan Lemieux down there for you. Here you go.
He's going to be on the first line left wing.
Like, here you go.
Well, he's going to be first line left wing, because that's what Carolina wants.
He did score last night, though, too. Though, so
they're just going to screw with Chicago as much as they can.
Imagine. Yeah. They are. Yeah. Just going to send them.
I'm going to be starting goalie
down there. Sign me.
I'm playing starting goalie.
Here you go. He's got to play first line D minutes, too. I'll be dead in the middle of the ice. But, yeah, that's right. Yep. I did. They are. Don't know what the name is going to be, but they are officially going to be in one of their expansion teams starting next season. So Greensboro's going to get an ECHL team. I don't know if they're going to be called the Generals again, or if they're going to be called somebody else. I really hope it's somebody else.
Well, then
they were the Monarchs, then they were the Generals before
organization?
they, kicked the bucket and went somewhere else. That's Raleigh.
What arena are they playing out of in Greensboro?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The Coliseum. I don't know what it's called, but it's the Greensboro Coliseum. Yeah. No, well, they renamed it. It's a sponsor. Baby. The Lawrence Joels, where the Thunderbirds play out of. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think they're still going. Are they not? Would they collapse?
Yeah, like a resurrection.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I don't even know. I don't pay attention to any of it. So, but yeah, I saw that yesterday. I thought it was interesting that and it's interesting Greensboro. Like, why Greensboro? You know, there's probably hundreds of northern, unless it was something that, like, you know, obviously the Canes push for.
Well, yeah, because it's fight night every night.
Oh, do they?
Oh yeah.
Well, I didn't realize that.
Well,
Every
that third
picture I
full
see,
for an
it's
SB
like
game
a
is pretty
third full.
packed. I'm not gonna
So
lie.
that's why I was
That's over
asking.
1,000 people there because I think that arena seats 5,000.
That's true, I guess. Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I know the Coliseum will hold like probably like 10, at least 10, probably 12, 15,000, something like that.
No, that's not a bad. There's not that many
But I
stipulations.
don't mind that stat because it's the most. It's the cherry. It's like the most attendance for an ECHL game located in North Carolina since
Yep.
1988, with a stipulation that the team moved
Dad,
in
you
2010.
you are not
Like,
wrong. In
that's the
January
stuff I
15th,
hate. Like all the cherry
1994, the
picking.
Greensboro
But
Monarchs faced Charlotte and set a single game ECHL attendance record with 20,911 people showing up to the game. That's, I mean, must have been.
wow,
I don't think there was room for
that's
people to pee, like,
crazy. I was about to
alone
say that must
full.
have been packed. There wasn't room for
20, that's
anything.
more than the Bell
Who would have
Center.
thought?
That's right
You
at
know,
the Bell Center's number. That's more than PNC.
it's more than the
Because
Canes get.
PNC's max capacity is like 19,850 or something like that. I'm
It was
including
like
standing room. It's like
18.7.
19. I think the playoffs, the most we've ever had is
Yeah.
like
Oh, with standing room.
19,850 or something like that. Oh, sorry. One last thing I wanna leave us on. Sorry, I know we've said this 4 times now, but anyways, do you guys see that the CHL is now, or the NCAA is voting to now allow CHL players to come and play college hockey after they're done with their CHL careers? That's awesome.
I did see that.
Only problem is it's going to
Yeah, that's
kill
cool.
the USHL.
Well, it makes sense with the NIL. Oh yeah, it's gonna kill it.
But is it? Because they're not getting
It's
paid
gonna
in the
make it more
USHL.
competitive.
So why, if anybody out of the top ranks that doesn't, because now it's like, even Fantilli, Adam Fantilli went and played in Chicago because he
Yeah, that's a
wanted to
good
play
point,
college
actually.
hockey. If
They're gonna
he
have to start
has the
paying him.
option, he's not playing in Chicago. He's playing in the OHL until he can
Mhm.
play at Boston University. So what's the point in playing? There's nobody's going to play in the
Yeah, he's
USHL
gonna
now. So the only
he's gonna
way I
make
could see
money.
fixing it, well, either that, or B,
They're gonna
have
have
an
to.
America division of the CHL and make it the USHL and just keep all those same teams and just have them play for the Memorial Cup every year and make it just an America division.
Goodness gracious, how many teams would
I
there
mean,
be?
they already
I was
play
about to
with
say,
3
how many
teams
teams
and
would there
there's
be?
5 teams
God
that make it.
knows.
So
It'd be like 80 teams.
one team has a host bid, the winner of each league, and then there's one other team that makes it as well too. So it's like, yeah, there's an at-large bid. So just take away the at-large bid, make it the winner of this USHL, and then you have your 5 teams still.
Yeah, but if you're the CHL,
That's
you don't
what
wanna do
I
that.
know.
If you're the USHL, you
Yeah,
do.
fair.
If you're the CHL, you're like, "Why? We wanna pull the talent. Like, we don't wanna merge with you just so you can keep the talent."
I
Like,
see
why
your
would they
point
ever
there,
do
yeah.
that? If I'm the CHL, unless the USHL basically says, "Hey, we'll fold, you can take our teams, and we just want a cut
Well,
of
so
whatever you get,"
all of
like a
those leagues, the
royalty
OHL,
fee, basically.
WHL, and
Like, that'd be the only
QMJHL
way.
are all independent leagues of their own. And so it would still be an independent league. They would just fall under the Memorial Cup stature. So it would still be a part of the CHL. So they still have to do all of their own private funding and everything like that.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't really affect anything else except for the at-large bid to the Memorial Cup. They would lose that in the CHL. So it would be literally based off of that spot because they're not having to provide them any money. They're not having to provide them anything. They would still have to do the same recruiting that everybody else would do. So it's like the only problem would be territory wise, because I know like in the States, like for North Carolina, we were only allowed to get drafted to the CA or to the OHL. So And then like up here in New England, they can only get drafted to the Q. So it's all based off of territory in that regard. But I mean, just I guess maybe get rid of the territory. Just get rid of territories altogether, and each team has every fighting chance to go pick up whatever player is available. You still have the drafts and everything like that, but you can get drafted to 4 different leagues, and then you can go pick out of those 4 leagues what team you want to go play for. But then that screws up a lot of the drafts, because then everybody would, you're expecting a player, and then all of a sudden, if you lose all of them, you don't have a single draft pick from the year. Like, that would mess up a lot of things in that regard.
Well, it'd be like how college football is right now, where it's just, people will go and play somewhere for 1 year and then, jump ship and go somewhere else. There's really no contracts. So, but again, if I'm like any of the CHL leagues, I would not even consider merging with the USHL in any way or making them a part of the league, because again, if you're looking at it like this, if you're the OHL, you're like, again, why would I give this league a leg to
And you
stand
can
on
collapse them
when I know I can pull all of their good players, and you can basically, because then again it creates kind of a monopoly for Canada, where they can do what they want because the USHL will become irrelevant. The USHL is going to have to
either that, or they're going to have to stay.
That's really what it comes down to. They're going to have to.
Yeah, either that, or
so if they don't start paying their players, they're going to
act as the feeder for the OHL and QMJHL. Like, yeah, like they understand their role, and basically be like, hey, listen, we're not going to compete with you guys. We understand you're going to get all the top talent. Give us the guys that you want us to develop, the 15, 16-year-olds that are really good, don't belong in the OHL yet, but are probably too good to be playing U16. Give us those guys. Let us develop those guys until they're 17, and then we'll pass them back off to you. That's how I think the USHL is going to have to run. It's going to be a very young league, in my opinion. That's how they're going to get all their guys.
Yeah, it's going to get a lot younger.
All I know is this college hockey is about to get crazy.
Start paying their guys. So that's the only thing. It's going to be interesting. I mean, if you're looking at it like, you're really not going to get the top tier, because they're just going to go to the O or the W, and then they're going to get drafted at 18 and go play in the NHL, so. Yeah, no, I know you get NIL, but I mean,
no, 100%,
for college hockey,
but for a kid like Adam Fantilli, who went and played in the USHL at age 15, his dream was to play college hockey. He went and played in the USHL at 15 years old. So instead of going to play in the USHL at 15 years old, he goes and plays at the O until he's 17, can go in his underage year to go play college hockey, and then get drafted into the NHL, because he wanted to play college. He felt like it was a better transition for him. But it's not as unique as you think anymore, because there's more Canadian guys wanting to come down to play college hockey. Outside of, like, I mean, you look at the draft picks from the past couple of years, all the top 10, I mean, almost half of them are coming out of college now. I mean, look at Lane Hudson out in Montreal. He was drafted 10th 2 years ago. He came out of BU. You look at a lot of these players, a lot of high-end talents coming out of college now, and especially now that they can pay. I mean, you hear it from Canadian guys. They always say they missed out on the experience of actually going to play like a true college sport, where they can, as bad as it sounds, go get shit-faced after the game. They can do that in the CHL, but it's not the same. It's not the same, in all honesty. So it's a different atmosphere at a college.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
you're right.
Yeah, but I'm just saying,
they can drink at 18 up
you're
there.
21 at college, 100%. Yeah, they're all waiting until they're 21. But it's a different atmosphere. It's a different environment. But what I think it's really going to provide is there's going to be a lot of those guys that age out from the CHL and don't want to go to Canadian uni. And so they decide to then go to play college hockey. So it's going to be those 20 to 21-year-old guys that 100%.
I was about to say,
the other thing I think it's going to do is it's going to add more programs.
Then. Like, they're going to have older players.
There's just going to be way more talent. There's going to be way more talent available to people, and they're just going to have to. They're going to add more programs. That's what I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So a lot of the big schools you'll see will create just a hockey program. I know UNC is basically at that precipice. They're building an arena right now.
They want it. Well, because I think they have to go D1 club first, and then they can jump to the D1 program. So No, they're D2 club right now, so they're looking to make the jump to D1 club. No, State's D2 club as well too.
Yep. Oh, is it State that's D1 club?
Liberty, yeah, Liberty University.
I don't know anything. I guess
they have a D1, D2, and D3 club teams.
Their D1 club.
Yep. So they got all three. Their D1 club team is nasty too.
Okay.
Like Cam, you know how good State is? I'm pretty sure the year State was like on the cusp of winning the championship, they played Liberty's D1 team and lost like 10-1. Like they're good. This team, but that's the other thing too is you could see a school like Liberty making the jump now all of a sudden. I don't really because they can go out and instead of having to try and recruit these high level players in order to compete, you can go out and get a couple 21-year-olds that are aging out that just don't want to go play college hockey in Canada. The other thing I might think it might do too is do you add college teams from Canada? No. That's true, yeah.
Again, it's the same situation with the reverse roles of the CHL with the USHL.
Well, unless it's they don't want more competitors. They don't because then it still falls under the umbrella of the NCAA. They're still making their money. No, I'm not talking. I'm saying the only growth they're going to bargain with these Canadian teams. So I'm saying they will expand stateside because that's fun. That money still funnels to the NCAA.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's what I mean. Yeah.
But yeah, well,
exactly.
That's what they do. But all right, this episode's kind of run long, so we'll leave it there, and we will talk to you guys next week. Thank you again to David for coming on to the show. But go Canes.